$500 for a gaming PC this size, and you don't even need a graphic card. Today we're going to talk about the ASRock DeskMini A300, which comes with this motherboard chassis, and it's basically bare bone. You have to buy a processor, you have to buy RAMs, and you have to buy an SSD. But the cool thing about it is that this small case right here, which is practically the size of a power supply, can pack up to 2.5-inch SSD or hard drives, depend what you want, and you can place one M.2 SSD. It also has, as you can see right here, antennas for your Wi-Fi connection, but if that is not suitable for you, you have a standard RJ45 connection at the back. Now, today we're going to talk about a small form factor. This is basically an STX motherboard inside. You get a CPU cooler as well for the processor that you're going to use, but the one that I used, I can go with the stock cooler that you get inside. For others, I would suggest going something like this. This is Noctua NH-L9A AM4 Chromax Black. Now, what is this all about? First of all, I got this really cool ASRock DeskMini A300, which actually has quite nice connections, I would say. First of all, we have wireless and Bluetooth connectivity. At the back you have a display port, HDMI port, you even have a VGA port, which is okay, but not necessary. It would be more suitable if it was, instead of the VGA, they had placed additional USB ports. Also you have USB 3.0, 2.0, and as already mentioned, RJ45. Here on the side you have a possibility to add 3.5mm jacks or 2 USBs if you wish, but on the front you have those connections. So you have USB 3.0, you have USB Type-C, and you also have 2 3.5mm jacks for your headset and for your microphone. Now, for this build, even though you could go with the 3400G from AMD, I use the AMD Athlon 3000G, which is much weaker, I would say. And even though it's a 2-core 4-threads processor, it can definitely be used nicely for as an HTPC or a 4K streamer box or something similar to that. After all, there is a possibility to mount 2.5-inch hard drives at the back, make some sort of a storage or anything similar to that. But if you're into gaming, and since the whole situation with the graphic cards is still catastrophic, you could definitely go with the 3400G and use the Noctua cooler to cool it down. With the original cooler, I wouldn't suggest going with the original cooler from the ASRock DeskMini because it will most likely be quite hot, and the second thing, the noise from the cooler revving up because it's trying to cool down the processor. Now, in addition to everything, you have the external power source. As you can see, you have the power adapter and the cable that goes into your wall socket, which is connected right at the back on the above the display port connection. Additionally to the Athlon 3000G, I used Kingston NV1 1TB NVMe SSD and 2x8 gigs 2933 MHz Kingston Fury Impact SO-DIMM DDR4 memory sticks, and it's all nicely packed. I mean, check this out. It's really small. It's almost smaller than the box of the Noctua cooler, so kind of interesting. You also have possibility to wall mount it here. If you have a bracket that can be held, you can place it on the wall. But usually these kind of PCs are mostly designed for office usage, to save up desk space and similar stuff. But if you decide to go with something like this, I would suggest 3400G. Now for some test benchmarks, I was quite surprised. Basically, the Athlon 3000G, okay, it has 2 cores, but in idle it was 25C, and even though it doesn't have a GPU, it's integrated, the temperature was 23 Celsius degrees. Now, the next thing that I find quite interesting with 3000G and this CPU tower cooler that you get inside the case, AIDA 64, I turned on CPU, FPU, cache memory, system memory, and GPU. CPU went up to 48 Celsius degrees on 100% load, and the GPU went up to 31 Celsius degrees. Then again, AIDA 64 only CPU and GPU benchmarks, stress test. CPU went up to 44 Celsius degrees and GPU 33 Celsius degrees. And only running CPU in AIDA 64 Extreme Edition, we got 42 Celsius degrees. Now for something more interesting, even though it's synthetic benchmark, Cinebench R15 in multi-core thread, because single thread would take forever. We have 380 Cinebench points with 3600X, we got 1620 with 24G 798, and with i3 8100 we got 568 Cinebench points. To take this into consideration, let's go with the Cinebench R20. So the CPU multi-core score was 876, while AMD Ryzen 1700X scored 3455. And then Cinebench R23, we had the multi-core test, we got 2178, while the 1700X got 8889. Next in line, I didn't use loads of gaming benchmarks. I only played PUBG just for a while to see if it would run at all. And I had to lower the resolution as well, so 1600 times 900. In very low details, I got average of 25 FPS, which is basically unbearable to game on 3000G processor. But if you go with 3400G, I think you would score much better points. Definitely more suitable for gaming if you lower the details, maybe even change the resolution, or just if you're into casual gaming or not competitive, or something just to play around with and still want to save loads and loads of money at the current situation, then you would go with 3400G and the Noctua NHL9A AM4 Chromax Black. So let's take this into consideration. This is 180 euros. The NV1 is somewhere around 90 euros, 1 terabyte. DDR4, the Fury Impact, is also 90 euros, 16 gigs. Then we have 3400G, which is around 160, 170 euros. And all in all, we get somewhere around 500 euros price for a very small, compact, affordable gaming STX PC. Quite interesting, right? So let me just show you a couple of things. You have 4 screws at the back, which you untie to access the motherboard and everything else needed to upgrade your system. After that, you just pull it out and that's it. There we go. So this is it, and you have only one connection going from the front panel, which is basically the connectivity, so the power on button and the 2 LED indication lights. There's nothing else to connect inside the chassis except for that. The USBs Type-C and the connectivity for the 3.5mm jacks are already soldered on the motherboard, as well as the back connections. So yeah, you have 2 CPU fan headers, you have additional USB ports. Under the SSD you have the card for the wireless and Bluetooth connectivity. So quite straightforward, there's nothing to complicate about. You just disconnect the front power on button, indication lights, and that's it. At the back you have 2 brackets for your 2.5-inch SSDs, and you connect them here at the back. The connection cables, you get them, so that's really nice. The power and the SATA connectivity, so no need to worry about connection. It's really straightforward, and I really love the design and how it's easy to work with it, basically. So guys, yeah, something different completely to show you if you're looking for an alternative way of gaming, working, and all the other stuff. The notch here is just for reference and recommendation if you're going with a stronger CPU with integrated graphic card that needs to be cooled down, because I'm quite sure this one won't do the justice to that CPU and it will definitely overheat. This one, as you've seen, does quite a nice job with 3000G. If you're into like standard desk office work and you want something casual, small, unnoticeable, you can pair up 3 monitors even with the VGA connection. So yeah, I'll put the links below for the ASRock DeskMini A300 and all the other components, including the NV1 from Kingston and Fury Impact. So you can check out the prices altogether. If it might vary from Europe to United States, and the price about 50 euros up and down or $50 up and down, so take that into consideration. But I kind of circulated around with 500 euros with 3400G. With Athlon it would be most likely even cheaper. Thanks for watching today's video. Don't forget to support the channel with clicking like button, subscribing, hitting notification bell for future content, and hopefully I will see you very soon. Bye bye.